Open Publics Meeting Act. Notice has been posted on the board's office and having been emailed to Department of State and to newspapers of broad circulation within the state.
Thank you. And now let's try the roll call.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Holden,
Here.
Commissioner Solomon,
Here.
Commissioner Shivakula,
Here.
Commissioner Gordon,
Here.
President Fiordaliso.
Here. And when is our next meeting, Ada?
Our next regular board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 18, 10 a.m. via teleconference.
Thank you. We will be having an executive session today, and we'll be addressing Clean Energy Item 8C for proposal for consulting services, and Miscellaneous Item A regarding the matter of energy assistance grant and the authorized vendor for that. The board will be taking action on these items during the regular session. Executive session will last approximately 20 to 30 minutes. Will the Attorney General's office please explain the justification for going into executive session?
Yes, good morning, Mr. President and
Good morning.
Commissioners. Clean Energy Item 8C and Miscellaneous Item 9A both fall within the contract negotiation and attorney-client privilege exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Act. These exceptions are found at New Jersey Statute 10:4-12B7.
Thank you, Michael. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're in executive session. Bob, you can take care of the
Will do.
Zoom, and everybody has the number, so I'll see you on the other side.
What? I like that.
Sorry.
It's glowing.
What's going on with my Zoom?
You're okay, Diane.
Yeah, I just can't see anything on my end. Huh.
Yeah, I'm marketing in the space. There's water on the moon.
Okay,
Yes.
we're back in open session, a little quicker than I anticipated, which is good. So welcome back, everybody, and I want to welcome everyone who is tuning in today. You see all of us on the screen, which is great. We're actually people, which is nice. So it's good to have you all here. You might notice my backdrop here, and that's Chloe, the lightning bug. And Chloe is lighting our way to a clean energy future, which is part of our marketing campaign here at the BPU. You might have seen it on the TV, the campaign. You might have also heard it on the radio, and so on. It's bringing to light, hopefully, to a wider spectrum of our population, the programs that are available here at the BPU, or to at least pique someone's interest and say, let me check this out a little bit further. And that's really what we're after. As many of you old timers, as I am, remember we used to have a marketing program back 12, 13 years ago. And then it was suspended, and this is the first reincarnation of it that we're very excited about. And again, promoting the BPU's programs that are going to hopefully, from a clean energy perspective, light our way to a brighter, cleaner future. So that's Chloe. I also want to mention the fact that a meeting was convened between staff and stakeholders regarding vegetation management. An issue that I know my colleagues and I are very concerned about. And after each storm, it becomes an issue again. Just trying to get our arms around what can be done. We've had pilot programs in the past. We've had other types of programs in the past. Looking at our rules, maybe something can be done through our rules, and so on. But particularly for those areas of our state that are more rural and have a lot more trees, it creates difficulties. So I just wanted to let everyone know this is an area that we're certainly looking at, and one that needs some kind of resolution somewhere down the road. I mean, it's just something that has to be done, and it's been a problem ever since I've been on the board. And I remember standing out in the cold weather, watching trees come down and with the wind blowing and so on. And it hopefully we can get, with the help of stakeholders and so on, our arms around what's going on here.
Joe, can I just interject while you're speaking on this subject? That,
Sure.
you know, I just happened to be on a Zoom call the other day, or a webinar about the recent storm out in Colorado and the issues they were having also. So, and then there was another one with another state I was on. So, this is not a unique problem. Everyone should know that, this is a topic that is not just being dealt with or addressed here in New Jersey, but, nationwide, this is an issue in certain jurisdictions, with repeated storms and how to address this issue. So not that makes the situation any better, but, maybe collectively, through all the proceedings that these different commissions are having, that there'll be some lessons learned and suggestions that come out of their proceedings as well. But, we should, keep in mind, we are not alone.
No, that's for sure.
addressing this issue.
Yeah, that's for
I think-
sure.
President, I think we need to have a stakeholders involved in that, the mayors and all the different environmental commissions at the local level, and that there is a lot of the issue always comes down to the trees that are not in the right of way, which utilities have no jurisdiction. So we need to get to some agreement from all the stakeholders, because it keeps, New Jersey, we have lots of trees, especially when you go into Bergen County and Hunterdon County, Warren County, lots of trees. And then, especially when I was driving through on 206, if you see that there are so many distribution lines, and then the trees are literally hugging the branches, if not the trees, the branches are hugging the lines. And all it takes is some soil erosion and the heavy rains that can bring down, and also a lot of dead trees. So I think it's about time we have something like that.
Well, the initial meeting brought together many of those stakeholders that you mentioned, realizing, of course, that we're not going to achieve anything without the input and the cooperation of the stakeholders. So yes, that's the ultimate goal, is to try to get a consensus of what's the best approach regarding this. I just received notice. I didn't even have a chance to notify my colleagues of this. There was a house explosion in Clarksboro, New Jersey. And the house went up in flames. They think it was an appliance. South Jersey Gas is on the scene. And obviously the first responders are on the scene also. There is no confirmation of any fatalities at this point. So we're waiting to hear the latest updates on that. Since our next meeting is going to be after Veterans Day, I just wanted to recognize those in our agency who have served our country in the military. Curtis Elvin, who's our new Chief Financial Officer, and we certainly welcome Curtis on board. He was in the United States Army. Jamal Gardner, also in the United States Army. Derek Jordan, also in the United States Army. Ryan Sharkey was in the U.S. Marines. Richard Steffen was in the Army. And John Stratford was in the United States Air Force. I want to, on behalf of the board, thank our colleagues for their service to our country and in their efforts to keep America safe and protect our democracy. Any other commissioners wish to make any opening remarks?
Yeah, also, I just want to say that there is a ballot question regarding veterans, that peacetime veterans should get benefits or not. So something to watch out for.
Okay. Madam Secretary, the consent agenda, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the following consent agenda items, 1A, 3A, 5A, and 9A.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiorelisa.
Yes. We will now proceed with the regular agenda. There are no items under audits that need to be considered. That brings us to energy and Stacy Peterson. Stacy, 2A.
Good morning, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
On May 6th, JCP&L filed a petition seeking approval of the transfer and sale of its 50% interest in the Yards Creek Generation Station, a waiver of the advertising requirements, and several other determinations. Additionally, JCP&L sought authorization from the net proceeds of the proposed sale to be applied to reduce the deferred storm-related regulatory asset balance. On September 23rd, Rate Council submitted comments not objecting to the sale. Rate Council did request that the board permit Rate Council and staff to review the final accounting of the sale and the calculation of the net proceeds in order to ensure that the fees, net plan, and costs netted from the sale are reasonably managed. Staff recommends the board issue an order approving the sale, subject to the conditions set forth in the draft board order.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call?
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. That brings us to 2B, and be gentle here with this one, Stacy.
Understood. On February 18th, JCP&L filed a petition for approval of an increase in its operating revenues of approximately $186.95 million. Among other things, the company sought approval of a return on equity of 10.15%, revisions to certain terms of its tariff, revisions to its LED street lighting tariff, and approval to roll in all of the capital investments under the company's Reliability Plus program. This matter was transmitted to the Office of Administrative Law and assigned to ALJ Irene Jones. Through the course of the proceeding, JCP&L updated its request to include actual information through the end of the test year, which reflected an updated revenue requirement of $185.34 million. The parties held numerous discovery and settlement conferences and subsequently executed a stipulation, which was approved by ALJ Jones. Some key features of the stipulation are a settlement revenue requirement of $94 million and an ROE of 9.6%. Additionally, pursuant to the previous agenda item, the actual net gain from the sale of JCP&L's interest in Yards Creek and the deferred tax liability associated with the company's sale of its interest in the TMI-2 nuclear facility will be applied to reduce the company's existing deferred storm balance. There will also be modifications to the company's storm deferral mechanism, and JCP&L will conduct a review of its storm costs for major and non-major events. JCP&L will also implement a vegetation management circuit performance program wherein they will perform enhanced on-cycle vegetation management on certain circuits with poor tree-related reliability. The purpose of the program will also address off right-of-way vegetation and include reporting metrics. Additionally, the residential customer charge will increase to $3.25. As a result of the stipulation, the agreed upon revenue requirement and any associated base rate changes will not become effective until November 1st of 2021. Based on the stipulation, effective November 2021, the monthly bill of a typical residential customer will increase by $4.53. Staff recommends the board adopt the initial decision, which would provide for an increase in base rates for service rendered on or after November 1st, 2021. Staff further recommends the board direct JCP&L to file tariff sheets by December 1st that reflect the tariff language changes to become effective December 1st, and to file by October 1st of 2021 tariff sheets reflecting the rate changes. Staff recommends that the board authorize staff to review the compliance tariff filings. I just would like to thank my staff for their work on this matter, especially the development of the vegetation management performance plan.
So moved.
Second.
Stacy, I'm happy to see that this won't take effect until November of 2021. Number one. Number two, I'm happy to see a ROE of 9.6%. JCP&L is one of those utilities whose region, whose territory involves an awful lot of vegetation. And they do severely get abused during a storm, and it creates many problems. So the vegetation management, which we're going to be looking at very closely and examining our rules to see if we are going to require more frequent tree trimming, so on. But that's what this stakeholder meeting or group is all about. Secondly, I am asking staff to initiate the steps to prepare for a management audit of JCP&L, an audit that will hopefully put aside some of the criticism or raise more criticism, depending on what the order suggests, of JCP&L. So we're going to initiate that and see where that particular thing leads us. Rate increases come along with justification. And part of that justification is, in my opinion, performing a management audit. So that's where we're at as far as that is concerned. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Stacy, I got a quick question about this LED street lights and the new tariff, and the stranded costs are going to be reasonably managed, you think? Because they're going to be retrofitting, yeah.
Yeah, so what we've done here as a kind of interim step as board staff works through the LED stakeholder process is to try to manage those costs while making sure that it's the customers that are benefiting, that are paying for them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I had to think long and hard on this one. And so I wrote out what I was going to say because I just didn't want to forget my reasoning here. It said that timing is everything in life. And I might be inclined to say, however, for once, timing was on Jersey Central Power and Light's side. The mere fact that Tropical Storm Isaias occurred outside the test year that ended June 30, 2020, that is the basis for all the calculations and settlement discussions, means its costs and the company's performance cannot be considered within this matter. However, it is nearly impossible to separate oneself from looking at this settlement, knowing the prism of Isaias could have greatly colored the outcome. Additionally, while JCP&L has continued to meet minimum reliability standards when excluding major events such as Tropical Storm Isaias, JCP&L's reliability excluding major events reached a 10-year low in 2018. There are two glaring items relative to any storm concerns in the JCP&L territories: communication and vegetation management. Both, among other operational flaws, will be addressed at length in the future comprehensive Tropical Storm Isaias report. However, I am glad to see that vegetation management, which continues to be an ongoing issue for JCP&L, is addressed in this stipulation of settlement. It is critical that particularly vulnerable areas are proactively and vigilantly surveyed to produce immediate remediation to at-risk areas with a budget sufficient to execute preventive maintenance and clearing. And that does not equate to complete tree canopy removal with a 6-foot trunk left standing. Clearly needed is a plan with identification of towns and rights of way specifically indicated in coordination with local officials, where and when work is planned so that an effective removal program may be coordinated. This also does not equate to placing an orange ribbon around a tree for 2 years and thinking you're done. In enhanced communications with town officials, they may best be able to collaborate on off right-of-way tree pruning and removal. There may be a local shade tree commission that already has surveyed street trees with variety and known growth rates that could be taken into account to ensure proper trimming around feeder lines. A meaningful conversation with elected officials in each community who are begging for action would render proactive information rather than waiting for a storm to present a circuit that needs rectifying. This procedure and mapping would operate much like a foundational filing done for water main replacements. As a former BPU president was wont to say, trust but verify. I am happy to know that the proceeds of the sale of the Yard facility will remain in New Jersey and be applied against the company's other storms deferred cost balance, as will the deferred tax regulatory liability associated with the sale of 3 Mile Island Unit 2 facility. As to the LED street lighting proposal, I will withhold comment and wait for the general stakeholder process to be completed, as I recognize that street lighting is a huge piece of a municipality's budget and would hope that it could realize the vast energy and cost savings and enhanced safety measures that LED lighting may afford. While I am not happy with a 4% rate increase, I am encouraged by President Fiordaliso's announcement that this board will proceed with a full and comprehensive audit of Jersey Central Power and Light, not solely financially, but operationally, which is of far more interest to me, such as have monitoring, preventive maintenance, corrective maintenance, and execution of planning, design, and construction been sound? Have company training, practice, and procedures been followed with respect to testing and maintenance on network protectors, transformers, and switches in the network? Proper wrapping of primary cables in the vaults and manholes? What is the follow-through on corrective maintenance in the network? It makes voting for this negotiated settlement increase palatable. Additionally, I take solace in two specific conditions. This rate increase does not take effect until November 1, 2021. And in the last paragraph of today's order, quote, the company's rates remain subject to audit by the board. This decision and order shall not preclude the board from taking any actions deemed to be appropriate as a result of any board audit, and thereby hangs my vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. Stacy, before you go on to 2C and New Jersey Natural Gas, I just want to update you. I just got a text that the explosion in Clarksboro, again, was caused, they think, by an appliance, and they have confirmed 2 fatalities. 8C or 2C rather, Stace, New Jersey Natural.
On February 28th of 2019, New Jersey Natural Gas Company filed a petition seeking approval of a 5-year infrastructure investment program with a total proposed investment of approximately $507 million. The proposed program consisted of various transmission and distribution projects and the replacement of the company-wide information technology systems. By order dated March 29th of 2019, the board retained this matter for review and hearing through designated Commissioner Gordon as the presiding commissioner and authorized Commissioner Gordon to rule on all motions and modify any schedules that may be set. On July 29th, Commissioner Gordon of 2019, Commissioner Gordon issued a pre-hearing order. Through the course of the proceeding, the parties engaged in extensive discovery and several settlement conferences discussing issues in the petition and subsequently have executed a stipulation. The stipulation would allow New Jersey Natural to invest approximately $150 million that would be eligible for recovery through an IIP cost recovery mechanism with annual rate adjustments. The company will maintain annual minimum base spend, and additionally will spend a minimum of 15.1 million on similar projects through base spend. Staff recommends that the board issue an order approving the stipulation.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, Stacy, could you just highlight again what, the types of things that are included in this program? I know you breezed over them, but just.
So they will be installing excess flow valves, which is a safety mechanism, as well as regulators. And as far as the bigger projects, that's to maintain reliability throughout their system and improve reliability where there have been some identified issues. So some reinforcement and replacements and looping projects.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. And we have another one in 2D, Stacy, for New Jersey Natural.
Correct. On May 29th of this year, New Jersey Natural filed a petition seeking review and authorization for the reduction of its energy efficiency program rate for the recovery of costs associated with its Save Green program. According to the petition, based on actual information through April 30th and estimated information through September 2021, New Jersey Natural anticipated being over-recovered at September 2020. The company subsequently updated based on actual information through July 2020, and the company modified its request and sought to maintain the existing BPU-approved EE rate. The parties have subsequently executed a stipulation that allows the company to maintain its current EE rate. As a result of the stipulation, customers will see no changes to their monthly bills. Staff recommends the board issue an order approving the stipulation and directing New Jersey Natural to file revised tariffs by November 1st.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. And 2E, Stacy, Public Service wants to sell a helicopter?
On September 18th, Public Service Electric and Gas filed a petition seeking approval of the sale of a helicopter and all personal property associated with it for a purchase price of $1.3 million. PSE&G originally acquired the helicopter in 2006 for a purchase price of $1.4 million and used the helicopter to conduct aerial inspections and system patrols of the overhead transmission system. PSE&G has determined that owning and operating the helicopter is no longer cost effective and determined that the company would instead continue to use contracted helicopter services to fulfill its inspections and related obligations. Rate Counsel has submitted comments indicating that it did not object to the sale, subject to certain conditions. Staff recommends the board issue an order approving the sale, subject to the conditions set forth in the draft board order.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. Stacy, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
And you the same. That brings us to cable television. LaWanda, Time Warner.
Good morning, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Yep.
Okay. Item 3A concerns a proposed stipulation of settlement aimed at resolving a longstanding rate matter filed by Time Warner Cable, the former owner of the cable television system purchased by Charter Cable a few years ago. By way of background, this matter began with a filing by Time Warner Cable in 2002, during the period when cable television rates for basic service and equipment were still being regulated by the board. Under FCC regulations, cable operators filed various FCC rate forms with local franchising authorities, which in New Jersey is the board, to justify rate changes. On October 1, 2002, Time Warner filed an aggregate FCC Form 1205, seeking changes to its equipment rates for all of Time Warner systems nationwide, including its New Jersey cable TV system serving 14 towns in Bergen County. The rate filing was processed at the board and subsequently transmitted to the Office of Administrative Law, where evidentiary hearings were held, and the company, staff, and the Division of Rate Counsel deliberated on the filing. An initial decision was issued by ALJ William Garral in July 2003, finding Time Warner had failed to meet the FCC and BPU requirements that its proposed rates were just and reasonable, and instead adopted the rates proposed by staff's calculations. Exceptions and reply exceptions to the initial decision were filed by Time Warner and Rate Counsel. In August of 2003, the board decided the matter and issued an order adopting the ALJ's initial decision, which required refunds consistent with staff's projected rates. Shortly thereafter, in September of 2003, Time Warner filed an appeal of the board's final rate order with the FCC. Both staff and Rate Counsel filed oppositions to the appeal in October, and Time Warner filed its replies to staff and Rate Counsel's oppositions in November of 2003, and the matter has been pending at the FCC since that time. Also, since that time, Time Warner has been acquired by Charter Cable in May of 2016. As part of the board's order approving the merger and acquisition, Charter subsumed responsibility for all of Time Warner's pending obligations, including the potential refund liability presented by this instant matter. In light of the longstanding nature of the matter, which has been pending for 17 years at the FCC under appeal, the parties engaged in negotiations in an effort to settle the outstanding issues and finalize the matter without further delay. In furtherance of these discussions, Charter submitted a stipulation of settlement proposal, whereby the pending appeal would be withdrawn with prejudice from the FCC, and customers in the Bergen system would receive a monetary credit and be permitted to participate in certain equipment and programming in-kind benefits. The proposed settlement calls for a three-prong agreement whereby non-bulk rate residential customers of record as of October 1, 2020 will share in a pro rata share of a $750,000 refund over a 6-month period. Also, as part of the settlement, the company is proposing an equipment in-kind offer whereby customers would be offered the ability to purchase an Apple TV device for $90, which is a 50% discount off the standard retail price. The third prong is a programming in-kind offer to certain customers that would provide customers the ability to obtain HBO for 2 months free or Showtime for 4 months free. The offer would be available to customers who do not currently subscribe to these channels. The parties came to agreement and executed the stipulation of settlement on October 21, 2020. Staff believes the settlement represents an equitable resolution of this long-standing matter and provides customers with innumerable benefits. Staff therefore recommends the board approve the stipulation of settlement.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
I think it gives new meaning to regulatory lag.
For sure, Commissioner, for sure.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. President, just a quick question, Lavanda. You know, when they offer 2 months free service of HBO and 4 months of Showtime, what happens at the end of that? I mean, will they be, because a lot of times all these offers are there, and then if you don't call and discontinue the service, then they keep on getting billed. Is there a protection for that?
Yes, under the stipulation, the company will not be permitted to continue billing the customers. Once the offer is over, the services will be discontinued, and the customer will have to affirmatively request to continue receiving the channel if they'd like.
Thank you.
So it's not an opt-out situation.
Correct.
The company is going to be proactive. That's great. Any other comments, questions? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiorelliso.
Yes. Luanda, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to quickly also give a special thank you to Bill Furlong, who has followed this case throughout the 17 years and was responsible for staff's calculations and has made sure that the customers of Time Warner got what they were supposed to receive. So I just like to say a special thank you to him for his
Excellent.
tenacity in making sure this case finally came to a good,
Thank you, Bill.
good turnout.
Excellent. That's the kind of staff we have,
Yes.
right? There we go.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, that brings us to water, and apparently it's the energy water agenda today. Michael?
Yes, we've got an exciting packed agenda today. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good morning, commissioners. The first item on the agenda is something that we're very, very excited about, and I know Commissioner Holden is especially excited about it.
Put your seatbelt on, Mariana.
Yes. The Distribution System Improvement Charge, or DSIC, is a regulatory mechanism which creates a financial incentive for water utilities to accelerate the level of investment necessary to promote the timely rehabilitation or replacement of certain non-revenue producing infrastructure. The DSIC projects enhanced safety, reliability, and/or conservation, and speeds the rate of renewal of aging infrastructure. The DSIC does not apply to the wastewater industry. So staff recommended that the board expand the DSIC program to include the wastewater to include the wastewater industry by adopting a new rule for the specifically for the wastewater industry, which will be known as the Wastewater System Improvement Charge, or WSIC. And the board authorized the publication of a proposed rule in the New Jersey Register. We've had a number of stakeholder meetings. Interested stakeholders have submitted comments, both pro and con. And after considering their comments and the results of the stakeholder meetings, staff is recommending that the board authorize for publication a final rule, which will allow the interested wastewater industry to institute a WSIC to replace aging infrastructure for the sewer industry. And I note that when a water main breaks or a water infrastructure breaks, it's bad. But when a wastewater infrastructure breaks, it's particularly bad. And Commissioner Holden has very unfortunate experience with that. and wastewater industry always tends to fail on like Thanksgiving or Christmas or some other inopportune time. So staff is very excited about this. This should also provide some economic benefits to the state because it'll provide some construction jobs, and the rule is being adopted, assuming the board adopts it, just in time for the spring construction season. So the utilities will be able to take advantage of the winter construction break to gear up for this. And we're very excited about this. I'd like to thank Kenny Welch, Megan Lupo, and Suzanne Patnode for all of their work on this. And I'm excited to recommend that the board authorize for publication in the New Jersey Register a wastewater system improvement charge rule.
So moved.
Second.
About time, right?
Yes.
So that's exciting, Mike, and thank you for your work, and Megan and Suzanne for Suzanne. I know has worked diligently on rules and so on. Great job done by all. So thank you. Any questions, comments?
Yeah,
Oh,
Mr. President. Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I have to comment because Mike is absolutely right that I 2 years in a row, Christmas Eve, we had a sewer collapse in the same neighborhood in Madison. And that after the second collapse, I said, that's enough is enough. And that was enough impetus to put a asset management plan together, which we'd never had, and including the wastewater system. It's the most neglected, if not completely neglected, but so important, as we have seen during this pandemic, health and hygiene, how important it is. So it's a growing business in New Jersey. You're going to see, I think, a lot more need for this. I've been saying it for years. Municipalities are trying to get out of this business because it's just too many things that they have to do. It's a very expensive operation to maintain, if they maintain it at all. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Pedro?
Yeah, thank you, President. Yeah, Mike, a quick question. Is there a difference between DSIC and VSIC? Because I know DSIC covers whatever is underground, and a lot of the times sewage systems, the pumps, also if they're not pumping, if it is a pump just sewage, if they're not pumping, that can create problems. So VSIC includes that or not?
Yes, it does.
It does. That's the difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're
It's
not
mostly underground, but a few items that are in the treatment plants themselves. And I should note that that most of the wastewater industry does not treat their own sewage. It's usually transmitted to a regional entity, but some of the utilities do treat their own sewage, so it will include some of that as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. And that brings us, Michael, to 5B, and regarding uniform system of accounts.
The uniform system of accounts. Yes, I bought props. With this is the board's uniform system of accounts for Class A and B water companies, which became effective January 1st, 1960, which were adopted in 1959. This is the board's uniform system of accounts for the Class C water industry, which was also adopted effective January 1st, 1960. And this is the board's uniform system of accounts for Class D water utilities, which was adopted also in 1959, effective in 1960. And June 1st will be my 40th anniversary at the board. And whenever somebody starts at the BPU and you're working on water rate and accounting issues, you're assigned updating the uniform system of accounts. So it took me almost 40 years to make that happen. The uniform system, all utilities follow a uniform system of accounts. The gas and electric utilities follow the FERC, or Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, uniform system of accounts. The telecommunications industry follows the Federal Communications Uniform System of Accounts, and those are set forth in the Code of Federal Regulations, and the board's rules adopt the Federal Uniform System of Accounts by reference. And anytime the FCC or FERC makes updates to the Uniform System of Accounts, they automatically flow through to the board's uniform system of accounts. For the water industry and also for the wastewater industry, there's no equivalent federal agency. So the board has to adopt its own uniform system of accounts. Back in 1959, the board order that adopted those uniform system of accounts, and the various classes are based on 1950 revenues. The board's order makes reference to a 1957 draft uniform system of accounts that was proposed by the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners, and adopted those uniform system of accounts by reference. And the uniform system of accounts have never been updated. And a lot has happened since 1959. We've had inflation, we've had leased vehicles, we've had computers, we've had things like tablets, we have a lot of environmental issues that have come up. A lot has happened in the last 50 years. So NARIC last updated the uniform system of accounts in 1986, but staff is recommending that the board authorize for publication in the New Jersey Register a proposed rule that will adopt the current NARIC uniform system of accounts, whatever that current is. So if NARIC makes updates to the uniform system of accounts for water, it'll automatically flow through to the board's uniform system of accounts, and we won't have to do anything similar to the gas, electric, and telecommunications industry. So I'd like to thank Megan Lupo and Suzanne Patnode for all their hard work on this, and I'd recommend that the board propose a regulation in the New Jersey Register for comment and input from the stakeholders, that the board adopt the current version of a uniform system of accounts by NARIC.
Second. All right, I'm sorry, I'm gonna move it, but I'm gonna move it separately. They're two different items, so I'll move the water uniform system of accounts.
Second?
Questions, comments?
Yeah, Mike, in terms of the economic impact, right? They have the utilities have to do certain changes, whether it's computer programming or what are the changes. Do you see that a significant amount economic impact?
No, I don't. Most of the larger utilities, New Jersey American, Suez, for example, operate in more than one state. So they're following updated uniform system of accounts in the states that allow that follow the NARIC uniform system of accounts. And I suspect that since so many portions of the board's current uniform system of accounts just are obsolete or don't apply, I suspect that that a lot of the utilities are already unofficially following the uniform system of the 1986 NARIC uniform system of accounts. So it'll be a minimal impact.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, Ada.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes, this puts us at least into the 20th century, right?
Now, I will move the proposed wastewater uniform system of accounts.
Yes, and the
Second.
wastewater uniform system of accounts, and here they are, were adopted April 1st, 1957. And there's no indication in the board's order that adopted them, what they're based on. So we don't know if the board adopted the NARIC wastewater uniform system of accounts or another uniform system of accounts. We just know that the board adopted a uniform system of accounts. But since the water industry is going to be following the NARIC uniform system of accounts, and since NARIC does have a uniform system of accounts for wastewater utility, also last updated in 1986, staff is recommending that the board propose a rule in the New Jersey Register for comment that would, similar to water, follow the current version of the NARIC uniform system of accounts. And again, I'd like to thank Megan and Suzanne for all their hard work on this.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Any questions? Roll call, please, Ada.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes, Michael, that brings us to 5D, New Jersey American.
Yes, on December 16th, 2019, New Jersey American Water Company files a petition requesting an increase in operating revenues of $87.8 million, or approximately 12.3% over projected pro forma rate revenues. The filing was based on a test year ending June 30th, 2020. The filing consisted of 5 months actual data and 7 months of projected data, and included proposed post-test year adjustments that reflected changes in the capital structure and other items through December 31st, 2020. Filing also included changes in certain revenues and expenses through March 31st, 2021. The matter was transmitted to the Office of Administrative Law for hearings and was assigned to Administrative Law Judge Jacob Gertzman. On February 18th, 2020, ALJ Gertzman issued a pre-hearing order which established certain procedures and hearing dates for this matter. Middlesex Water Company, Aqua Water Company, New Jersey, Joanna Foods, Cogen Technologies, Linden Joint Venture, Rutgers, the State University, Phillips 66 Company, Princeton University, the City of Elizabeth, Mount Laurel Township, MUA, Local 423 of the Utility Workers Union of America, the Township of Bedminster, the Borough of Far Hills, the Borough of Bernardsville, the Township of Bridgewater, Borough of Raritan, the Township of Raritan, and the Borough of Peapack Gladstone filed appropriate motions for intervention and were granted intervenor status by ALJ Gertzman. After proper notice, 6 public hearings were held in various locations throughout New Jersey American Service Territory. Extensive discovery was exchanged and evidentiary hearings were held before Judge Gertzman. The parties engaged in numerous settlement discussions, and as a result of these discussions, New Jersey American, Rate Council, and board staff, collectively the stipulating party, reached a stipulation of settlement, resolving all issues in this proceeding. Among other things, the stipulation agrees that New Jersey American will be permitted to increase its base rates in a manner designed to produce a total operating revenue increase of $39 million, which is an overall increase for water and wastewater service of 5.52%. The annual revenue increase will be based upon a rate base of $3.5 billion, and the stipulating parties agreed to an overall rate of return of 7.03% and a return on common equity of 9.6%. The impact of the Tax Cuts and Job Acts, which will be discussed later in this agenda, is also addressed in this proceeding, and New Jersey Americans' rates will be offset by a Tax Cut and Job Acts related credit, so customers will not see the impact of the rate increase resulting from this stipulation and initial decision until September 1st, 2021. All interveners submitted letters of non-objection to the stipulation. On October 21st, 2020, ALJ Gertzman issued an initial decision recommending that the board adopt the initial decision. On October 23rd, 2020, New Jersey American Water Company advised the board and the parties that the executed stipulation incorrectly stated the long-term debt ratio. The company further advised the parties and the board that it was merely a typographical error and did not flow through to any other number in the stipulation or to any of the stipulation supporting schedules. The company requested that the stipulation be corrected on the record and represented that all parties had consented to the request. Staff recommends that the board modify the initial decision to correct the stipulation on the record in order to correct this minor typographical error. And with that modification, staff recommends that the board adopt the initial decision.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. In 5E, also New Jersey American and their distribution center. Michael?
Yes, whenever under the board's DSIC regulations, whenever the utility who has a DSIC and soon to be a WISIC, files a petition for a rate increase, the DSIC is reset to 0, and everything that was previously included in the DSIC is flowed through into base rates. So because that happened, the DSIC rules also require that the utility file for a foundational filing, which includes the proposed projects for the next 3 years that it would like to include in the DSIC. The matter was transmitted to the Office of Administrative Law with the request that it be consolidated to the base rate case. So it was consolidated with the base rate case. Judge Gertzman held separate hearings just for the DSIC, and the party is engaged in a stipulation, and it recommend that the board adopt the stipulation, and the stipulation establishes what the company proposed to be addressed in the DSIC for the next 3 years, and those projects will be reviewed, and assuming that rate counsel and staff and any intervener agree with the inclusion of the projects in the DSIC, they will be included in the DSIC on a quarterly basis over the next 3 years.
So moved. Oops, sorry.
Staff recommends that the board adopt the stipulation.
I jumped ahead of my script.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Second.
Any questions?
Yeah,
Comments?
Just for your general publication purposes, Mike, in terms of foundational filing, what types of things are they looking to include in the DSIC this time?
They are including replacement of hydrants, replacement of company-owned lead service lines, and a number of other projects that will enhance the replacement of infrastructure, and these are all construction-related jobs that will be happening. So it will also help the state's economy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And how important that is right now with all the adverse things that have occurred during the pandemic. The injection of these projects into the state's economy is certainly beneficial, to say the least. And so infrastructure is extremely important, and one that all the utilities should be looking at this point. Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. And that brings us to 5F, Michael. Again, New Jersey American and a calculation of rates.
Yes. Last but not least, on today's agenda for water items, the Tax Cuts and Job Act of 2017 was signed into law on December 22nd, 2017, with an effective date of January 1st, 2018. The 2017 Tax Act sets forth changes to the federal Internal Revenue Tax Code, including the reduction in the maximum corporate tax rate from 35 to 21%. On January 31st, 2018, the board issued an order establishing a proceeding to all affected utilities to consider the implication of the 2017 Act. On March 2nd, 2018, New Jersey American Water Company, in response to the board's tax order, filed a petition with the board reflecting a proposed rate reduction resulting from a tax act and other items. The parties adopt the Rate Council, board staff, and New Jersey American Water Company entered into a partial stipulation which resolved certain issues regarding New Jersey American's tax filing, and the board issued an order on July 10th, 2019, adopting the stipulation. On December 6th, 2019, the company submitted an updated to its filing and calculations and proposed rate of return on the excess accumulated deferred income taxes to its customer. Subsequently filed the base rate petition that we just discussed. Rate Counsel, the board staff, and New Jersey American have entered into a stipulation which resolves all remaining issues regarding New Jersey's Americans' tax filing. The parties recommend that the board, under the terms of that stipulation, the rate increase that was just ruled on by the board will be partially offset, and customers will not see a rate impact until September 1st, 2021, and staff recommends that the board adopt the stipulation.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. Michael, thank you very much for all your hard work. Megan, thank you. And Suzanne, thank you. I know this was a lot of work getting this all together, but it's much appreciated.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay. That brings us down. There are no reliability or security items to consider, no customer assistance items. So that brings us down to clean energy, and the first two clean energy items. Ben Goldstein, you're going to be presenting some good energy saving projects. Ben, you want to start with 8A?
All right, great. Thanks, Mr. President. Good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I noticed that my background's kind of making my hair look like Tintin. I'd just like to say for the record that it looks better than that in person. Important to note. So anyway, item 8A.
Right, it does.
Yeah, right. I love Tintin. Big fan. Hudson County submitted a pay for performance existing buildings application requesting board approval of a financial incentive of $1,500,342.20 to install energy conservation measures at the county's Meadowview complex located in Secaucus, New Jersey. The project has a total cost of $10,556,061. At the Meadowview complex, the application proposes to retrofit all interior and exterior lights with LEDs, install building envelope upgrades to both air sealing and insulation, replace hot water pump motors with newer models that feature variable frequency drives, install a new high efficiency air-cooled chiller, decentralize the complex's boiler plant and replace it with localized condensing boilers and hot water heaters at the various buildings within the complex, incorporate building management system upgrades that include temperature controls, scheduling, fan controls, and ventilation controls, and finally, to install new high efficiency transformers. So obviously a very in-depth, comprehensive project is being proposed. Savings here, the project is anticipated to accomplish the following on an annual basis. Conserve 1,406,955 kilowatt hours of electricity and 17,318 therms of natural gas, reduce peak demand by 139 kilowatts, and result in energy cost savings for Hudson County that total $264,796. And again, that's all on an annual basis. The payback period without incentives is 36.6 years. And when factoring in the incentives, the payback period is reduced 6 years to 30.8. While the payback period here is lengthy, staff believes that the project's inclusion as part of a larger energy savings improvement project, or ESIP, makes it worthwhile. Government facilities may pursue large-scale capital improvement projects through ESIP that are primarily paid for by the value of the project's future energy savings. While this particular energy efficiency application shows an unusually lengthy payback period due to the high cost of some of the proposed measures, the larger ESIP project itself will result in a positive overall cash flow to Hudson County over the 20-year payback period, while also resulting in significant energy savings, which benefit the county and New Jersey residents as a whole. Staff views this project as representative of the type of comprehensive project the board typically seeks to incentivize through the Pay for Performance program, and therefore recommends approval of the related application despite the longer than usual payback period.
So moved.
Second.
Ben, thank you for that comprehensive presentation. And yes, it is a long payback period, but there are two things that I'm particularly happy about. Number one, that county government is jumping on one of our programs. And number two, the payback period, even though it is long, is ultimately going to save the Hudson County taxpayer money. And to me, that is certainly a tipping point. And that's what's so great, I think, about governmental projects, because ultimately it's the taxpayer who's going to benefit from it. Are there any other questions or comments?
Mr. President,
I'm sorry. Who wants to go first?
Bob,
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Bob.
Bob.
thank you. As you all know, I have expressed concerns in the past about these particularly long payback periods. But I just want to say for the record that I accept staff's argument that the Meadowview project is an important component in the overall ESIP project, and for that reason, I'll be supporting it.
Diane, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm particularly thrilled that the county project is being included in this program, and from an equity standpoint, also the fact that everyone who pays in to the SBC and to funding these programs is getting a benefit. It's not just an individual company or corporation or even just a single school. It's the county, and I think from that standpoint also it has a positive impact, and it's something that I know that Commissioner Holden and I have both been recommending, and I'm glad to see this type of project going through. So thank you.
Upendra, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just curious, Ben, the effective date of this order is November 7th. How is that? I mean, usually the orders become effective on the day we vote on it, right? So I'm just curious.
Usually, at least for the orders that I've worked on, we list the effective date of the order as 10 days following.
10 days, okay, I got it, thanks.
Good, and I encourage more counties and more municipalities to really take a serious look at our programs and see how they possibly, our programs, can help you, not only on the county level, but on the municipal level. And again, the great thing about it is it boils down to a win-win situation for the taxpayer while getting the improvements necessary to conserve energy. So it's a win-win, no matter which way you look at it. Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Shivakula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. And 8B, Ben?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad everyone likes the county projects because item 8B is another Hudson County energy efficiency project. So for 8B, Hudson County submitted an energy efficiency program application requesting board approval of a financial incentive of $1,068,670.98. This incentive would fund the installation of energy conservation measures at the Hudson County Correctional Facility, which is located in Kearney, New Jersey. The proposed project has a total cost of $5,081,250. Numerous energy conservation measures are proposed through this application, and they're rather similar slightly less comprehensive, but very similar to the one that was just approved. First, the facility's interior and exterior lighting will be replaced with LEDs. The building will also receive envelope upgrades in the form of air sealing to prevent heat from leaking out of the facility. The facility's existing hot water pump motor will be replaced with a new highly efficient model that utilizes a variable frequency drive, and the existing building management system will be upgraded to control HVAC and ventilation. Finally, the measures include a new high-efficiency hot water heater, condensing boiler, and transformers. The project is anticipated to accomplish the following on an annual basis. Conserve 1,937,980 kilowatt hours of electricity and 75,273 therms of natural gas, reduce peak demand by 254 kilowatts, and result in energy cost savings of $272,743. The payback period without incentives is 15.3 years, and when factoring in the incentives, the payback period is reduced to 11.7 years. This project is also associated with Hudson County's larger ESIP program plan, which I just presented in the last item. And so staff recommends approval of the application for the total estimated incentive amount.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call, please, Ada.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiorelisa.
Yes. Thank you, Ben. We'll see you in a little bit, Ben.
Yep.
That brings us to 8C, Kathleen, and regarding our marketing program, which we did discuss, by the way, in executive session.
Yes, absolutely. You took the words right out of my mouth, Mr. President. The matter before you was discussed in executive committee and pertains to confidential information. As such, I have no additional information to share at this time.
Are you recommending we adopt?
I am recommending that you adopt it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call?
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiorelisa.
Yes, and for those who might just have joined us, you'll notice over my shoulder, there's a bug. It's not on my head, it's over my shoulder. That's Chloe, and Chloe is our lightning bug, a part of our marketing campaign, which we just renewed the contract for. And Chloe is going to show us the light to bring us to a cleaner future here in the state of New Jersey. So that's what we just accomplished here. So thank you, Kathleen, for your work regarding this. Roll call. Do we do roll call?
Yes.
We did. That's what I thought. I get carried away sometimes with this marketing thing because it's, I've been waiting so long for it. Ben, back to you.
Yes, thank you. So for item 8D relates to a formal petition that was filed some time ago. On March 31st, 2020, Honeywell Energy Services Group, on behalf of the city of Newark, filed a formal petition seeking additional time to submit final paperwork for 13 pay-for-performance or P4P projects and one combined heat and power or CHP project. By order dated August 12th, 2020, the board granted the request for additional time to submit the required paperwork for the P4P projects, but declined to rule upon the request regarding the CHP application. Instead, the board instructed petitioner to provide board staff with additional information needed to formulate an informed recommendation. Since the issuance of the August 12th order, staff has gathered the required information from Honeywell, which has provided documentation of its initial approval and of the 2 previous extensions granted. The extension letters indicate that substantial progress has been made on the project, justifying the grant of additional time. As a result, staff now recommends that the board approve an extension of 60 days from the effective date of this order for Honeywell to submit final paperwork for the CHP application.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call later.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
That brings us to 8E, Stacy, regarding our whole house pilot program.
Yes,
Stacy
hello.
Richardson. Hello, how are you, Stacy?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Hello, Commissioners. On behalf of staff, I'm pleased to present this item to you. We have prepared for your consideration a request for quotations for a consultant to assist staff in the development and implementation of a whole house pilot program. Through the Clean Energy Act and Energy Master Plan, energy efficiency is playing an important role in achieving the state's goal of 100% clean energy by 2050 by building sustainable infrastructure, reducing energy consumption and carbon emissions, ensuring universal access to cost-effective energy efficiency measures, and fostering equitable economic development. While energy efficiency is both an immediate and long-term solution to reduce energy consumption and costs, health and safety issues often present obstacles to full energy efficiency implementation in homes, thereby reducing participation in programs that could otherwise achieve significant energy and non-energy benefits for residents. The Energy Master Plan calls for the establishment of a clearinghouse for home energy and health and safety programs targeted to low-income households. State-funded programs that serve low-income customers should be leveraged and coordinated to ensure that energy efficiency, health, and safety measures can be better marketed and provided, and that structural, health, and safety issues are addressed at the same time as energy upgrades. Many stakeholders participating in the energy efficiency transition public outreach process also express support for such an approach. Through this whole house approach, energy efficiency improvements will be integrated seamlessly with government and non-government efforts that remediate health and safety hazards, such as water intrusion, mold, asthma triggers, asbestos, lead, and other heavy metals or contaminants. A whole house approach ultimately seeks to coordinate energy efficiency improvements and health and safety hazard remediations into an integrated single stream process that leads to the greatest possible benefits for our residents and communities. This RFQ will solicit quotations from consultants who can review and analyze case studies and best practices from other states, identify and assess existing data, programs, resources, and funding streams in New Jersey that could be used and leveraged as part of a whole house approach to implementing energy efficiency and addressing health and safety hazards, design and implement a pilot program in the municipality in the state that streamlines and integrates existing programs to provide these services for single and multifamily residences occupied by low to moderate income individuals and residents, and assess pilot performance as a basis for establishing a statewide program. Staff requests the board's approval to issue this RFQ for a consultant to provide professional technical services to design, implement, and evaluate a whole house pilot program for the state of New Jersey.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments for Stacy?
President Fiordaliso,
Yes.
it just occurred to me, is this only for inside the building envelope, or could it be things surrounding the building as well? So for instance, I know we don't burn coal anymore in the state, but years ago I had an apartment with whenever I had the screens in place, I'd end up with these little black granules on my my windowsill. It was coming from outside in. Obviously, it was a health hazard. The lead service lines that are connected to a house, you may not know you have them. So are things on the outside or immediate outside going to be included in this?
I think that the pilot program as currently envisioned was just to address the inside that have been barriers to participation in the program. But I do think that it's possible that through the pilot program, we could explore, if we could broaden the scope. I don't see why there would be a problem doing that, especially if there's a way to leverage those kinds of funding, funding sources and programs from the state. Certainly we could take a look.
Okay, great.
And is the program designed to enhance energy efficiency
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so, something, too far outside of that, I would think, would not be applicable.
Yeah, it just struck me
Unless we
because,
made some change to the program.
yeah, but as Stacy says, that there's other program, might be able to point them to other programs. I just didn't know. I'm sorry, I would have brought it up in the briefing, but I just thought of it now, and we have a lot of talk about environmental quality in neighborhoods, so that's why it
Yeah.
struck me.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention, I think it's really wonderful that we look beyond the borders of the BPU to other agencies, business interests, anyone who may be able to contribute to working on some of these, health and safety measures so that we can, improve the effectiveness of the programs that we do support. So, not everything should be falling to the BPU and consequently to the ratepayers to fund and to look outside our borders for ways to address these issues. So I think that's a great idea.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. President, Stacy, one of the things of interest to me is the gas leak detection and quick notification to the utilities. I think something we need to, I know Con Edison is doing a pilot in New York area, and something like that. They tie it, the gas leak detection with AMI, and they're able to notify the utility companies. So we may want to figure out, since it's a pilot, so we may want to think about something like that.
Okay, sure. We can take a look at that as well. Thank you.
And that's the nice thing about having a pilot is you're able to tweak it and you're able to improve it or find out what's not working or find out what is working and so on. And that's the exciting thing about a pilot. It's a living object. It keeps changing as we go along. Any other questions for Stacy? Roll call, please, Ada.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiorelisa.
Yes. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
That brings us to 8F, Suzanne Patnoy, regarding Dakota Power Partners.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Can you hear me? It's
We
actually
certainly
morning
can.
still.
I
Sorry.
don't know what time it is.
Yeah, it's still morning.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Item 8F is a proposed rule amendment to the board's renewable portfolio standards at NJAC 14:8-2.5. Specifically, this proposed rule amendment would modify the types of energy that qualify as Class 1 renewable energy resources to include any electricity derived from solar technologies or photovoltaic technologies generated within or delivered into the PJM region, provided that projects are not also receiving SRECs, TRECs, or any other form of clean energy credit. Currently, Class 1 RECs are limited to solar generation facilities connected or deemed connected to New Jersey's distribution system that have exhausted their SRECs or TRECs. This proposed rule amendment arose from a petition for rulemaking from Dakota Power Partners, LLC, originally filed on January 14, 2020. Petitioners note that New Jersey law at NJSA 48:3-51 defines Class 1 renewable energy to include, without limitation or qualification, electric energy produced from solar technologies and photovoltaic technologies. However, board rules are more restrictive, limiting Class 1 eligibility to qualified solar facilities that have exhausted their SRECs or TRECs. This has the effect of blocking both in-state and out-of-state large-scale solar facilities from contributing to New Jersey's RPS, even though state law recognizes such facilities as eligible for Class 1 RECs. This rule proposal will help the state meet its RPS requirements and bring us into compliance with the statute. Notably, board rules that govern the eligibility for solar facilities to qualify for SRECs and TRECs are purposefully restrictive, such that they allow the board to steer solar development toward contaminated industrial and commercial sites and discourage development on farmland and open space. Staff notes that the intention to guide large-scale solar developments to the built environment and marginalized land has not changed and anticipates that the forthcoming successor solar program will allow for the continuation of these preferences. However, staff also notes that Class 1 eligible resources, such as offshore wind, do not face similar restrictions in New Jersey's RPS. It needlessly raises RPS costs to disallow large-scale solar electric energy to compete against other Class 1 renewable energy generators to fulfill New Jersey's RPS. As noted earlier, these proposed amendments will bring New Jersey into compliance with its clean energy statute and help the state meet the standards for renewable energy set forth in the legislature in the Clean Energy Act of 2018. Staff recommends this proposed rule be published in the New Jersey Register and made available for public comment. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments for Suzanne?
I just have a, Mr. President, I just have a quick question. Suzanne, the agricultural industry impact, it says that it's going to be a mixed because it may have an impact on the irrigable land. So just wanted to mention that.
That's interesting. I think that's something that's going to be studied. I don't, moment, I think the preference is for non-agricultural land. And I'm sure that there will be robust comments.
You were cutting out, so I couldn't hear it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think that the preference for solar siting will still be on non-agricultural land, but it's something that we'll continue to look at in the solar successor program. And I'm sure that it will be subject to robust comment.
Commissioner, may I address your question as well?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. So just to clarify, the board has siting control through formerly the SREC program, the legacy program, now the TREC, and ultimately through the successor program. That being said, there are no overarching statewide restrictions through ag, through DEP, through the legislature. And so there is already the ability to build solar on farmland. They just don't qualify for New Jersey's more lucrative incentive programs, such as the SRECs, and that isn't changing. But what has happened is that if a developer were to build solar in New Jersey, they would then have to sell to a different state's RPS. So we don't actually have siting restrictions in New Jersey. We only have siting restrictions as they pertain to the board's incentive programs. But just as we enable renewable generators from elsewhere in PJM to sell into New Jersey's RPS, generators in New Jersey can likewise sell into other RPSs that belong from states that belong to PJM. So I just wanted to clarify that this is, I think, a bit of a misconception, but that there is no current siting control in the state itself, that you can already build solar on farmland in New Jersey. You just can't, you would just sell, say, to Maryland or Pennsylvania, as an example, into their RPS.
Yeah, I didn't imply that there's restriction. All I'm, so this in the agriculture impact, there's a mixed, so even if it's out of state and trying to benefit from that, they don't benefit for the, not for the SRECs or the TRECs, but they will benefit from class 1. That's what point.
We do. Based on our modeling for successor, we don't anticipate that the current class 1 rec prices will be enough to fund new projects. As class 1 recs are about $10, right now, and we think modeling suggests we need closer to 30 to close that gap. So we don't anticipate there will be much of an impact, but certainly if the developers show us wrong, then that will be worth considering as well.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call, Ada?
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. Thank you, Suzanne, for your work on the rules, and Hannah, thank you for that clarification. That brings us now to 8G, and Kelly, you're up with a MOU with DEP.
Correct. Good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Glad to sneak in under the wire and say good morning. This item is, as you mentioned, an MOU with the Department of Environmental Protection on renewable portfolio standards and waste incinerators. This matter addresses how the board determines the eligibility of an in-state waste incineration facility to receive Class 2 renewable energy credits, that is RECs. The Electric Discount and Energy Competition Act, EDICA, provides that the electric energy produced at a resource recovery facility qualifies for Class 2 RECs, provided that, quote, the Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection has determined that the facility meets the highest environmental standards and minimizes any impacts to the environment and local communities, end quote. Currently, the board and DEP have no formal mechanisms for documenting whether the DEP views in-state waste incineration facilities as meeting the statutory standard. However, out-of-state waste incineration facilities are required to provide a certification from their DEP equivalent annually by October 1st in order to remain qualified to sell Class 2 RECs that qualify for compliance with New Jersey's RPS. Using the process for out-of-state facilities as a model, this MOU institutes a process whereby on October 1st of every year, the DEP will formally notify the board whether any waste incineration facility has fallen out of compliance with the statutory standard and therefore lost its eligibility to sell Class 2 RECs. This MOU will clarify the roles of the DEP and the BPU. Statutory standard is clear, and this will establish a better means of tracking eligibility for these facilities. Staff recommends adoption of this MOU.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments for Kelly?
I think this is great. Now we act like, well, it's your fault. You're doing it. This makes it very clear what the procedure is.
And this is part of the, yes, I agree with that. And this is part of agencies, departments working together also, and which has to be enhanced, I believe, and so on. Are working with the Department of Labor, Environmental Protection, DCA. It's a whole holistic approach that has to be achieved, and I think we're doing a very good job so far doing that. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. It is a great thing that we are doing this. It only took some time. The important thing is that a lot of these facilities have to comply with clean air standards, DEP standards, in order for them to get licensed. So I think there is already some protection, but we want to make sure that whatever the effluents are there, emissions are clean, because they are in environmentally justice neighborhoods. I think a lot of these things are incinerators in neighborhoods that affect the health and safety of the people living there.
Yeah,
yes, indeed, and that's why it's so important. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to, point out that with respect to the SRECs and the TRECs and on closed landfills, it's pretty clear what the delineation of duties are, and for receiving these Class 1 RECs or Class 2 RECs, excuse me, making it clear, who has what responsibility, as we do, on the solar side, it makes it clear for all parties who are involved in participating. So,
That's right, and that's
it's
why
consistent with what we've been doing.
That's right, and that's why it's that's why this was sought out by us to DEP, and I'm glad we were able to come to an agreement and move forward on that topic. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please, Ada.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yep.
President Fiorelisa.
Yes. And that brings us, thank you very much, Kelly.
Thank you.
That brings us to miscellaneous item 9A, which was thoroughly discussed in executive session. Maureen Claire, you're up.
Yes, thank you, commissioners. I apologize, I don't have a camera on my computer, but can you hear me okay?
We sure can.
Okay. 9A pertains to the administration of the board's payment assistance for gas and electric program known as PAGE. The PAGE program provides financial assistance to low to moderate income residential customers with their electric and gas bills. The board is required to designate a nonprofit organization to receive this funding to administer the PAGE program on its behalf. PAGE is currently administered by the Affordable Housing Alliance, AHA, of Neptune, New Jersey. The board's contract with AHA expires in January of 2021. Therefore, in June, the board initiated a competitive bidding process by authorizing the issuance of a notice of grant availability to solicit bids from nonprofits seeking to administer PAGE for the next contract period. The notice was published in the New Jersey Register on August 17th, as well as on our website, and was emailed out to numerous potentially interested parties. Additionally, a question and answer period was provided to all potentially interested bidders. These questions and answers were posted to the board's website and were emailed to all potentially interested parties as well. 2 bids were received by the due date of September 16th from the nonprofit organizations AHA and New Jersey Shares. An evaluation committee comprised of board staff was formed to independently review and score each proposal according to the criteria listed in the notice. AHA scored 46 points higher than the alternative bidder. AHA also received the highest score from each committee member, as well as in all scoring criteria. Therefore, the committee was unanimous in recommending AHA continue as the PAGE program administrator. If approved, this contract would take effect in January 2021 and would be for a 2-year period with an option to extend for a 3rd year with approval by the board. In conclusion, staff recommends the board award the PAGE contract to the Affordable Housing Alliance.
So moved.
Second.
And of course, Maureen, correct me if I'm wrong. This is not final until Treasury approves this contract. Is that correct?
No, I believe like enabling legislation gives authority to the board to make that decision.
All right, then I am wrong. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiorelisa.
Yes. Maureen, thank you as usual for your fine work in helping to deliver these much needed programs to those who need them. And I just want to make mention of the fact that in conjunction with DCA, we operate programs that help people. And the commissioner of DCA, who is also the lieutenant governor, and I will have a op-ed in the Star Ledger on November 6th. And the whole purpose of the op-ed is to inform people what is available, how we can help them as a state, and so on. So we're trying to get this word out in every possible way. I know we do a lot on social media regarding this. We do a lot when my colleagues and I go out and talk and give speeches and so on. People have to know what's available, particularly during these extremely difficult times. Any other questions or comments for Maureen? Roll call, please, Ada.
We did that already.
We did. I knew that. I was just checking to make sure you weren't sleeping.
No.
Thank you very much, Maureen.
Thank you,
That
sir.
brings us to 9B. Bob Brabston, what do you have for us?
Hi, good afternoon, President. Good afternoon, Commissioners. So this is item 9B in the matter of the Board of Public Utilities response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And as everyone knows, since the governor declared a state of emergency and public health emergency in early March, the board has been working diligently to ensure that customers and residents of the state continue to receive safe, adequate, and proper utility service, and that service remains uninterrupted to the extent possible. And shortly after the emergency declaration, a voluntary moratorium on utility shutoffs for non-payment of service, among many other steps, was announced in order to protect the health and safety of residents, employees, utility workers, and small business owners. That moratorium was extended throughout the summer to mid-autumn, and ultimately extended for residents through March 15th, 2021, by virtue of Executive Order 190. Also, as you know, in July, the board initiated the current proceeding authorizing companies to set up a regulatory asset on their books to record the costs of responding to the pandemic, and directing the companies that do set up a regulatory asset to make quarterly filings detailing the costs that they are experiencing and recording. Staff has continued to work with other agencies, utilities, other interested stakeholders on a variety of matters related to the pandemic. And it's become evident that a formal proceeding is needed in order to adequately address numerous complex and pressing issues that customers and the industry statewide faces. And so staff has recommended that the scope of the current proceeding be expanded in order to address, among other issues, the impact of Executive Order 190 on customers and utilities, including the duration of the current moratorium, and to investigate the appropriate strategies and mechanisms for dealing with large past due balances. Staff hopes to receive comments from interested stakeholders on the appropriate scope of the proceeding, the issues to be addressed, and the timing for addressing the issues identified. And therefore, staff is recommending for your consideration a few things. First, to expand the scope of docket number AO 2006-0471, which is the matter listed. Second, to direct all interested stakeholders, including rate council, utilities, and other interested parties, to file comments with the board on the appropriate scope, the issues to be addressed, and the timing, and to file those comments by November 30th. Third, to designate President Fiordaliso as the presiding officer for the proceeding. And four, to consolidate rate council's petition and the comments received in response thereto into the expanded proceeding. And I'd also like to note that in response to some of the questions that the commissioners raised in some of our earlier discussions, we would also like interested parties who are filing comments to provide information on creating a formal program for the water and wastewater industry for providing assistance to customers who are affected by the pandemic. And we would also like all utilities and stakeholders to provide input on identifying and justifying the use of additional funding sources to help with the essential programs that are in place, or to help with the creation of new programs. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Motion?
Do you have a recommendation?
We recommend that the commissioners approve staff's recommendations to expand the proceeding and appoint the president as hearing officer.
So moved.
Second.
I think it's important that we mentioned here for public consumption that part of that op-ed that's going to be released in November is also encouraging folks to get in touch with their utilities and to set up a payment plan. It's so vitally important. Ultimately, these moratoriums are going to end. And I don't want to see anyone, I'm sure none of us want to see anyone smacked with a bill that is so large that it's like trying to climb out of a well. So if you're in that position, please reach out to your utility. They're more than willing to set up a payment plan for you. I know it's difficult for those who are out of work, but again, they will work with you so that at the end of all of this, and it will come to an end, there's no question about it, you're not smacked with such a large bill that it's virtually impossible to dig out of. So please get in touch with your utility. It's to your benefit. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah. Go ahead, Mary.
I was just going to mention that, there have been some customer service issues regarding internet and how important this has been during the pandemic for work from home, school from home. And I was wondering if this is going to also be covered, because I know it's probably one of the most expensive bills I have in my house is my cable bill, because I've got everything bundled together. But well, that will be part of this proceeding as well.
Well, Commissioner, as you know, we're limited jurisdictionally as to how much we can do on access to internet. It's certainly something staff is interested in pursuing. It's not contemplated to be part of this proceeding, but Lawanda and her staff have been really doing a great job investigating what our options are there and working with some of our other partners, including those in the legislature, to figure out the best way to address it. But under our current jurisdiction, it doesn't appear that that's a good fit for this proceeding.
Great. I just don't want it to get lost, because I know customer service is, the one thing we still retain here at the board.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, my understanding is that this is just a table setting of the scope. And, to the extent we can broaden it to include even those that have, service issues, as Mariana just said, even though we don't have, that jurisdiction over, the telecom and the cable that we once did. I know on security issues, they've been in cyber issues. We've included them in discussions that are of a vital nature in terms of, service to the community. So it's not that we have not included them in the past in areas that are, vital to the operation of the state. So, you might want to consider that. But my understanding is that this is basically a table setting scope. It's not from which additional information will then be solicited. That's
correct, Commissioner. That's why we set the November 30 deadline for initial comments, and after that, we'll publish we'll recommend to the commissioners a more detailed and extensive scope of the proceeding for your consideration, and then we'll take it from there.
And your understanding, Diane, is perfectly on target. It is table setting. And I can tell you, we will put all the weight behind, of the BPU behind enforcing the fact that any home with children who are remotely schooling or people who are using it for work because their office is closed physically, the full weight of the BPU will be there to encourage the cable companies to comply.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, look, we also, the best medicine would be able to get people, back working and businesses operating. And, to that extent, they're going to need those type of services as well in order to be up and running or to modify their operations going forward. So, that's really the best answer to any of these problems is to, at some point getting us open. So
there's no question about it, but unfortunately, in my opinion, we're not there yet.
yeah.
So we have to deal with the present and we have to deal with what's in front of us and the hand dealt to us. So.
One thing, Mr. President, I mentioned it to Bob that corporate social responsibility, can be also used towards achieving some of these objectives. So maybe we should try to mention that, every corporation, especially for-profit corporations, have an obligation to help out communities under duress and distress. So I thought, just want to.
I agree with you. And I am on the phone every week with the heads of all of the utilities. And that social obligation is the paramount phrase of our conversations. And for the most part, corporations, utilities have been more than receptive in their level of cooperation. There's always one or two that need a little extra encouragement, and they know who they are. So yes, this is certainly something that requires good corporate citizenship. And again, for the most part, our utilities have complied with that. And those who haven't have certainly heard from us, I assure you. Any other questions or comments for Bob? Now, Ada, before I say anything, did we vote on this?
No.
Okay,
No.
let's do roll call.
Thank you. On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fairlisa.
Yes. That finishes our agenda, and I want to thank everyone who presented today. And as always, I want to thank my colleagues for their incisive input. And I want to wish everyone a safe Halloween. Be careful. Watch out what kind of costume you put on. And
Wear a mask.
wear a mask and just be safe. And I'm talking to everybody, not just my colleagues. I know you will be. But just be safe. And since our next meeting isn't until after, I want to encourage all of you who have not yet voted to go out and vote. The whole basis and the whole cornerstone of our democracy is the participation of its citizens. And this is one way that we as citizens can participate in that democracy. So don't minimize the effect of your vote. Go out and vote. Any of my colleagues have any last words that they would like to say? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Stay safe, take care of yourselves, and take care of one another. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.